Hey everyone, this is Loic from the Dallas office. So this is going to be a short tutorial. We're going to go over Google Earth Pro and how to create a tour and then export that tour as a video. Then go to Adobe After Effects where we'll then do a little bit of post-processing to make it look a little nicer and to compress the data down to a more manageable amount. And then we'll go from there to Keynote where we can create a presentation for the brokers to use for any of their pitches. This is going to be mainly focused towards Mac users just because Keynote is more of a Mac platform. You can get Keynote for PC, but it's not as reliable. So you'll probably stick with After Effects as like your main thing, which is basically you'll make a video instead, which you do have plenty of customizable options in After Effects, but that's its own tutorial. I might make one for that just to go into more depth on that. For now, we'll start with Google Earth though. So here I'm going into Preferences, just to show you there's lots of settings you can turn on and off to help with performance or to make Google Earth look a little nicer. If you want to control the speed at which you navigate between buildings and not, this is the setting you'd want to change. This is kind of fast, so you might want to slow it down a little bit for your own projects. So now you can just search, whatever you want. So I'm searching Dallas, which is our area, and it will go to the marker, obviously. And then zoom down, and you can choose basically whatever camera angle you want. So in this case, I'm bringing it into downtown. I'm going to use a few control shortcuts. In this case, if you hold Shift and up and down arrow, you can pan up and down, and Shift plus left and right arrow is panning left and right. And then just arrows moves the camera around. So yeah, so I'm just trying to find the shot right now. All right, and then once you find the angle and the shot you want, you press this little cursor up here, give it a name, and then you're going to want to remove that little yellow marker, so you just change the opacity to 0, so it'll hide it basically. And so now in the list on the left, you see that's popped in under your folder as Downtown Dallas. And so now I'm going to pick another building to focus on to make a second point. In this case, we're going to use Museum Tower. So I'm using those controls again, Shift, up and down, and left and right for panning. Now I'm making another marker, Museum Tower. Okay. And now we have two, and we can go between them. So just like that. Awesome. And so in this case, if we want to change the angle that we have or pick a new viewpoint, you can again adjust your camera accordingly, pick the sweet spots that you want, and then you can right click and go to Get Info. And there it'll basically, there's a view tab, and when you say snapshot current view, it'll save the angle and everything, and then it'll update it. So now if you go back and forth between them, it'll have the new updated snapshot basically. Yeah, and so I'll add a few more. I'll show like a quick little overview, and then we'll go to the Earth. So if you want to make a cool shot of Earth going down into, in our case, Dallas or your city, you can. And then it will save those shots. So you can hypothetically create a perfect loop video, because the beginning and the end will always be the same shot. So if you start with the Earth shot and then you end with the Earth shot, they're the same angle, same view, which means you can just loop the video and it will indefinitely continue. And you can drag these around, like they're not stuck in the order that they're in. So if you want to reorder them, just click, drag, and you can move them around in the list. Okay, so now we're pressing the video recording tool. So you just press the record button, and then it'll just record all the movements you do. So in this case, you just choose your timings by taking your own time. So you pause a few seconds, click on the next building, and then you see I'm going back to the beginning Earth. And then you stop the recording, and you want to make sure that everything looks right. So it'll play the recording for you now. So you can see that it recorded all the movements that I did. And then once you're satisfied that it looks all good, you want to make sure to save the video, and it'll pop up in your list now after you name and save it. Okay, make sure to exit because if you don't exit, it won't let you go to this next part. But you can always re-click on the video to pull it back up. So in this case, we're going to go to Tools and go to Movie Maker. And when you click Movie Maker, it'll give you a set of options. So you can choose where you want to save it. In this case, I'm going to save it onto my desktop. Make sure to rename it. Yeah, and then you can choose multiple options, 720 at 30 or 1080p at 60 frames. We'll go with that because that's, most modern displays are going to have 1080. You want to do an mjpeg.mp4, at least for Macs, this works pretty well. And then it'll start exporting the video. Almost forgot, to remove that red marker that's in the video, just exit out of the little tab up here and it'll make it disappear. Also for Mac users, we have another option to record because sometimes Google Earth, when it records the video, it can get a little wonky, especially the longer the video and the shorter the distances it jumps. So in our case, we have QuickTime, which allows us to basically screen cap our Macs. In this case, you can, when you press on it, it'll give you an option and it'll say click to record the full screen or click and drag to create a small window that'll record. And so what you do is you basically just record the Google Earth window that shows the actual buildings and stuff, and then you can record it that way to have a more smooth video that shouldn't have any weird jumps in it or anything. So another thing we can do is once you export that QuickTime video from Google Earth, you can actually trim it because you can see there's a little bit of wasted time at the beginning. So here you can trim it down to kind of get rid of that excess, so it'll make it just easier to edit later on. Anyways, so now we're going to open up After Effects. Once you open it up, you just press New Composition. Name your composition what you want. In this case, it's going to be tutorial. And you can choose your width and height for the project. So you're going to want to do 1920 by 1080 because it's your typical display for most devices. And then keep your frame rate at 30. That's again normal. And then here you can adjust your duration. Usually you want to make it match, but you can always change this later. So feel free to make it really long, and then you can just trim it back down if you don't end up using all the time. So now it's going to create a timeline for you and an empty project. So now we want to import our video that we just exported from Google Earth. And so you can just right click and import basically from there. And then once it's imported, you just drag the file into the timeline, bring it to the beginning so that doesn't start random. And then you can see as you scrub through it, it'll show the video. But it's a little laggy, and that's because it's rendering it at full resolution. So when you're working on it, you can just make it go to third or a quarter to give your computer a little more room to render out the frames. So now we just want to add a little bit of saturation and a little bit of contrast. And so in this case, we're going to go to our effects panel over here, effects and presets, and go to color correction. I usually like to use Lumetri color. I'm not exactly sure if that's how it's pronounced, but you just click it, drag it onto the clip that you want to edit, and then it'll bring up a new menu over here to the left. So go click basic correction, and you can boost the saturation. And it's not super noticeable, but you'll see it a lot in the greens and blues. So if you look at this little green patch of grass over here, when you bring the saturation back down to normal, it's a little, not too nice. And then when you boost the saturation, it brings a little bit more vibrancy to the image. And then boosting contrast just comes help sharpen some of the lines. Because these 3D models aren't incredibly high res, so it's just to give it a little help, But once you've done that, you can do a couple more effects for PC users. This is where you'd stop, so you'd be doing a whole video basically. But for the Mac users, we just want to do this, and then bring it to composition, and go add to Adobe Media Encoder, and that's going to open up another app. And this thing's purpose is basically to export your video and compress it. Because currently it's 500 megabytes, which is really large, for something so short. And you don't want to have these large file sizes to have to deal with. So you want to compress them down while maintaining quality. So I'll come back once this is loaded up. Okay, so now that's loaded, you just click over here to save it, or to choose a location for it to save. Again, I'm going to put it to the desktop. And then you click here to access the options for the video. And this is the export options, so audio quality, video quality, all that type of stuff. And then once it loads up the screen, you'll see that there's a couple tabs. So for now, we're not using audio, so just uncheck that and it'll save you 2 megabytes right there. Then on our video, you're going to go to the bit rate and just put it at about 15. 15 is a nice large amount of data for the video to keep the quality up. Click use maximum render quality to make sure it's putting all this process, and you can see now it's only 35 megabytes. Press the play button and then it'll start rendering it out. So now we're going to go to the final part, which is Keynote. For PC users, this isn't going to be too useful to you, mainly because Keynote, again, is more Mac oriented. Though there is a free version that you can use. It's an iCloud-based service, which is free, and it'll basically stream the program to your PC. Though you will need relatively fast internet or Wi-Fi to use it in a an effective manner. So, but feel free to watch. You can still look into this, but I'll probably make another video to go more in depth on how to create a more full-fledged After Effects video that has all the effects that we'll end up probably doing in Keynote, and honestly more, because After Effects is a more powerful program when it comes to editing. Though it won't be interactive like a presentation, it'll just be a video that your broker could like pause or play. So now we'll open up Keynote, just choose a blank white document. You can delete the text boxes, you're not going to need that. Then go over here to the document and create a widescreen version. I'm going to use a little shortcut, Shift, Command, and it's like a little left arrow thing next to the M key. That'll let you zoom out. Then you just drag your video in. It'll give you this little alert, but don't worry, this is for like iPhones. We're not going to be using iPhones. And then it'll just drag in the video. And once you select the video, you're going to see that there's a Google Earth icon. So to hide that, we're just going to make a little square, make it color fill. I put no fill, color fill, there we go. And then make it black just to hide it. And then we'll get rid of the drop shadow. And then we'll just extend it to each edge and then just cover up the Google Earth thing just to clean up the presentation a bit, make it look a little more refined. If you do that QuickTime video trick where you just record your screen, you don't have to worry about that because you can just record and make sure that the Google logo isn't in your recording. Then we'll group these together just so we don't have to deal with them anymore. And then click on the video and go to the Movie tab, and here's where the magic's going to happen. You can adjust basically, or you can trim the clip down to what you need, the parts you want to play. And we're basically going to create the solution that they're going, like building to building, but really they're just going slide to slide and they just won't see the transition. So here you're just going to line up your initial and end points. That's the poster frame. That's what's going to be visible when they go to the slide. And so once you do that, we can duplicate. And then we're going to again click on it, make sure you're in the Movie tab, and then adjust the trim to the next scene, basically. And you want to make it so that it's as close to where the new scene starts as possible. So like right when the image starts to move, that's where you want the beginning to be. And then right when the image stops is where you want the end to be. And then if you play, you'll see that when you play, and then you go to the next slide, it'll seamlessly go to the next building. And as far as they can tell, you're moving around 3D, but really it's just a slideshow. So now I'm going to show you how to just make a quick little title card that can have a little bit of information. So I'm putting color fill, but you can actually go to image fill, and in this case you would basically just create an InDesign document with your layout that you want, and then you can literally just drag and drop it. Well, not drag and drop it, but you can drag and drop it. But you can also just go into the color fill thing, and you'll see that there's an option. Once you click image, it'll pop up a little box that allows you to import an image. So now I'm just placing it off the screen because we're going to animate this in. So let's see, there's the image fill. Anyway, so you go to animate, which is up here. You don't want to go in here. This is a build-in, but what we want is an action. So you're going to add a move action, which is basically going to just move the thing. And so you drag this little guy over here to the left, which is where it's going to move. It's that kind of transparent square. And so see, there's a preview. You see move in. And then we're going to add another move to make it move back out of the screen. and so you just have to drag it again to align it back to where it was outside. And then if you click build order, you can see the order of which these things are happening. And so we'll do a quick preview, see how it looks. Okay. Next slide. And then it should come in, yep, and go back out. And that's basically it. It's pretty straightforward. You're going to do this for each building, and each building will have its own slide. And you just go movie, trim it, to the beginning and end, and then it'll just, it'll sync itself up basically. And the main thing is you want to make sure that the end is the same frame as the previous one or previous slide, and that's what gives you that illusion that you're like going seamlessly between these shots without showing like the slide shifting. You can add way more effects and stuff, to your heart's content. A lot of this is going to be really up to just your design sense and just what you like, like in the presentation, or what your brokers want. But this is the basic structure. So I'll show a few more examples at the end of this real quick. So that's it. You have Google Earth Pro, then bring it into After Effects, and then the Keynote. Here's an example of our first test when we were experimenting with things we could do. So this is just an example presentation basically of what's capable using this method. This is using the Google Earth Pro to After Effects to Keynote, but you can do all of this just from Google Earth Pro to After Effects. After Effects has a ton of flexibility, more so than Keynote. Keynote just allows your brokers to be a little more professional and actually present it using like a clicker, and going like step by step instead of pausing the video and then playing it. It gives them a little more control over where they're at. But in this case, so here's like you bring a title card like I was talking about previously, and here we show an animation we made in After Effects to show off a floor plan, and then each building can have its own thing. But you see, it's a seamless transition going building to building. It looks nice. If you do the video version, you can add sound effects if you want, music overlay, whatever, what have you. Okay, and then this next example is the video, for instance. So we basically just took that presentation and made it into a video. In this case, we just screen cap basically us going through the presentation, which gives the same effect pretty much. And then this one is a little more advanced. This is a recent project we did where I was able to make it so that they could go between buildings, like by clicking on the numbers. In this case, there's a slide that comes out if they want it to. But here you can go to building 1. It'll zoom in. It'll go through a multitude of cards, but at your own pace, because again, this is a presentation. So you press this is the first card, second card, and then a third card. And then after that, you can wait on here, or the broker can then press again to fade back out to the hub area. But see, we don't have to go in order. You can go 1, and they can go straight to 7. It doesn't matter. You can go in any order. You can go back to 1, whatever you want to do. And then again, it'll bring out the 3 slides. Now, if you were to bring this into After Effects, you could add some more post-processing effects, like adding a blur to the background to focus in on the building. But again, for the presentation, you can also do that to the video before you drag into Keynote and then get that added effect. But yeah, so there's a lot of functionality to this, and you can, we're constantly thinking of new ideas of what to do. But it's up to your creativity. Like, how far do you want to go? How much effort do you want to put into it? How long is it? Right? If your broker's asking for 20 buildings, you may want to talk to them and tell them you want to tone it down. 10's probably the sweet spot, because the trick is going to get old fast. So the first 2 shots of the camera panning and moving around are going to look cool, but after that it might get a little tiring and it might be slow, and that's where you can change the speed settings between your buildings when you're in Google Earth Pro to make it a little faster, so that when they're pitching this to other people, they're not waiting around for the camera to sluggishly move to the next building. But again, adjust it to how you want it or how the brokers need it. And I'll add more videos as we come up with more ideas, just showcasing some cool things that we might find out that we can do in After Effects or Keynote. But I hope this was helpful. I hope that this explained it well enough. If you have more questions, please feel free to contact me. My name is Loic Ferdinandi, Loicferdinandi, for Ferdinandi. And then, just put that in for the email for Avis and Young. But yeah, hope everyone has a nice day, and thank you.